Time for another edition of the Kaufman Corner podcast. With you, as always, the good doctor, Dr. Rany Jazayerli, one of the co-founders of Baseball Prospectus. My name is Soren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Royals take one on the chin today. Is this the end of the line for the playoffs? We'll talk about that. What will it take for them to make the playoffs? If it is not, who should be batting leadoff for this team? We'll talk about Bailey Falter, Ryan Bergert. We'll get to see what the Royals have there. Noah Cameron continues to be impressive. We'll talk a little bit about the bullpen. John Rave, is he playing his way out of a job there in the outfield? When is it time to call up Carter Jensen? Or who are the two players going to be when they expand the rosters? We'll talk about it right here, right now. The Kaufman Corner Podcast.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner Podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro. Rany is a co-founder of Baseball Prospectus, author of Rany on the Royals, and a former columnist for Grantland, The Ringer, and The Athletic. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by David Starnes Allstate Insurance, covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff as well. Motorcycle, boat, ATV, you name it, get with Dave and he'll have you covered. Give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. And now, here are your hosts, Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. We do appreciate it as we are off and running here with the Kaufman Corner Podcast, and it's a heavy heart that you bring to the equation here today. Rany, is that fair to say?
Yeah, today, some losses sting more than others, and obviously, any loss on a Sunday when we're about to go live a few hours later hurts a little bit more. But the Royals had found a way to win just enough games to sort of keep the dream alive here, and make us think that they could still stay in this, even if their playoff odds were trickling into single digits. And I really thought today would be another one of those days. They fell behind early, but Vinny hit a 2-out, 2-run home run in the 7th inning, gave them the lead. It looked like they were going to come home with a winning road trip against three teams, two of whom, are playoff contenders, two of the best teams in the league. And then John Rave decided to turn a single into a triple in the absolute worst possible situation, which is a 1-run lead and with 1 out in the inning. I can forgive all sorts of physical errors. God knows if I'm out in the outfield, for the Royals, there are going to be a lot of balls that bounce off my glove. So I understand that, but not understanding in that situation, specifically 1 out, 1-run lead, the importance of not allowing a runner to get into scoring position, but especially third base, and not playing for the single. In the brief moment when Rave decided to dive for the ball, and watching the video for that split second where my brain's like, oh, he might make it, we have a chance to get an out here. And then realizing with horror while he was in midair that no, he had no chance of catching this ball. It wasn't particularly close. And the implications of that, it hurt because, Lucas Erceg tried his best to get out of it and actually got the second out on a pop-up that allowed the runner to hold at third. But ultimately, next guy got a hit, gave up the tying run, they lost in 11 innings. And look, there's a lot of it's hardly one play that's going to determine this. Once again, the offense did nothing with runners in scoring position. They didn't score in extra innings, the 10th or the 11th. They went 1 for 15 today with runners in scoring position. when you look at the season as a whole, it's very clear to me it's the offense that's the problem. But John Rave, we're asking too much from him. I mean, for a guy who's 28 years old and just making his major league debut this year, but that the idea that he's the best option in left field right now says more about the team than about him. So I don't want to put too much on him, but that was a mental mistake, and I fear that really kind of closes the door on whatever hopes we have left for a playoff run here.
This was it. This was the moment. You closed the door.
And look, again, as I like to say and annoy you, I don't think in binary terms. I think in probabilistic terms. It's never 0% until it's 0%. But their playoff odds right now are at 6.1%. Today was a great day to have a great day. The Guardians lost, the Red Sox lost, the Yankees lost. They had a chance to really make up some ground here. And they crapped the bed against a team that sold 40% of their roster 10 days ago. It maybe extra galling that they lost on a walk-off home run from a guy named Luke Keeschel, who was drafted by the Twins 2 years ago in the second round. The Royals could have drafted him. That was the year they drafted Blake Walters. They took a high school pitcher instead of a college hitter. And as much as we give the Royals credit, deservedly so, for developing pitching, the Twins have become a hitter factory over the last few years. And Keeschel, who came into the game, he's been in the major leagues for like a week and was already hitting 380. He's now up to 415 in his brief major league career, and he's a second baseman. We could use one of those guys. So it just kind of extra galling to see that happen. That the Twins, even having sold, they have enough talent in their farm system to replenish, and the Royals are still a year or two away from being able to say that about their farm system. So, kind of a poignant loss. There was a lot to take from it today. None of it good.
June 15th was the day that I declared them done. I stand by that. I have not thought they are good enough, and I don't think the moves were enough, although we'll get to Ryan Bergert here in a minute. He's looking like they swindled again their opposition in a trade, and so I think that's really encouraging. But I think if you were of the mindset that they were still alive, I don't like what happened. But we talked about on the radio show, myself, Curtis Seabold, Kyle Collier, that this 9-game stretch was critical. Well, there's still 6 more. And my feeling was that they had to go at least 6-3, but preferably 7-2. 7-2 is still possible. 6-3 is still possible. So I don't know why I think what is it about this loss? Or did you think that they needed to go 8-1 or 9-0 in this stretch? Is that what has turned you off to this?
Well, I mean, every loss now is just one less loss, one less margin of error you have for later. And to me, what's galling is, losing 2-3 to a team that waved the white flag. That's part of it. Part of it is blowing a 1-run lead, in the 8th inning. And what it says about the team. It's not just about John Rave, but about the fact that Lucas Erceg's stuff is just, he doesn't look 100%. Like, he's still a very, very good pitcher. And I think in some ways what he's doing this year is extra impressive, given that he's not really striking guys out. You look, his velocity last year was consistently 98.5 to 99 as fastball. And it was steady throughout the year. And obviously he was better when the Royals got him, than he had been with the A's. This year, his velocity was down a tiny bit to start the year, but has been just dropping consistently. His average fastball this year is around 97.5. It's, he still has an elite fastball, but not super elite. He's getting a lot fewer strikeouts. His ground ball rate has gone up a lot, but in that situation right there, man on third, 1 out, he doesn't have the kind of strikeout stuff. And the next 2 batters both made contact, and one of them made hard contact. So it's, and Carlos Estevez, again, I love the guy when we have a 3-run lead. When the game is on the line. Look, it wasn't a bad pitch, honestly. He gave up the walk-off home run. Credit to Luke Keeschel, who apparently now is Rogers Hornsby.
Right.
By the end of the show, I'll have him in the Hall of Fame. But it's just kind of a reminder that, like, the Royals' strengths are not strong enough to overcome their weaknesses. And specifically their inability to, like, hit consistently. That's a big one. That's a big one. You can fake, there are certain things you can fake a bad defense. You can try to overcome a bad bullpen. You can move guys around. If your entire lineup isn't scoring runs, there's not a lot you can do. I mean, the Royals this year kind of shown us the limits of what you can do with like an elite pitching staff to try and overcome a lousy offense. And the problem with elite pitching staffs is eventually guys get hurt. And they've been putting too many fingers in too many dikes, and the pitching is still good, but it's not good enough to overcome their offense, and they are what they are, which is, probably around a 500 team. Not, maybe a little bit worse, but I mean, look, this is probably going to be one of the best Royals teams of the last 30 years. Like, this is not a disaster by any means. 2 years ago, that was a disaster. This is not a disaster year, but it's a disappointment. And it's a disappointment in part because, like, I feel like the main weakness that this team has shown this year was something that we could sort of predict, and therefore something that maybe we could have sort of addressed before the year began. So it's a little frustrating.
It's frustrating, but I mean, I had this conversation before, like just because you have a hole doesn't mean that there is a solution to fill it in the off season.
I remain, and I can't prove it, but it remains my position that better coaching could have, when we talk about a hole, it wasn't one player, it wasn't a one player hole. It was a lineup problem. And I think that a better hitting a coach, a better approach at the plate, I think it would have made a difference across the board. I just look at too many people having disappointing years, and I feel like they didn't have to be great. They just had to be, comfortably below average as a lineup, and this team would be right in the playoff hunt right now. So, yeah, I can't prove it. I'm not gonna sit here and I say I'm sure. I hope that we will get a controlled experiment next year, because I'm hoping that we will find out what different coaching can do for this team.
Because in other words, you're anticipating a coaching change this offseason. You're expecting it. You're calling
I would recommend it. I've learned better than to predict what the Royals will do when it seems to be an obvious decision to make. But I do think if the season progresses the way it has been, and ultimately they finish the year out of the playoffs, and the offense continues to rank among the worst in baseball, I do think we will see a change there.
What does it take for them to make the playoffs now?
What did we see last week? 30-20, and they just went 2-4. So what? 28-16. I mean, what it takes for me, we talk about this.
That's to get to 86 wins.
Yeah, that's to get to 86 wins. I think 86 it's going to be close, and it really depends on who you end up. If you finish with 86 wins, you're probably going to be tied with somebody, and so it matters. The tiebreakers matter, and the Royals lose the tiebreaker to the Yankees, who, I mean, the one comforting thing about this past week, the Yankees are just continue to free fall, and it's kind of infuriating.
And the Rangers have begun to free fall.
Well, that one's interesting too, because the Royals do have the tiebreaker on the Rangers, assuming they win even one of the four games they have coming up with them. They have a chance to win the tiebreaker against the Mariners. They have to have a very good. That's probably the most important series they may have left. Although the Astros are starting to falter too. Like the Mariners are close to moving into first place, so they have some options. The other problem, of course, is the Guardians of not today notwithstanding. The Guardians have made up 10.5 games on the Tigers in the last month, which is hard to do. I do not expect the Guardians to win the division, but if they do, keep this in mind. They were at one point 15.5 games, I believe, behind the Tigers. They would be the first team in the history of baseball to finish in first place after falling 15 games out at any point during the season. The current record is 14.5. You know who that was? The biggest comeback in Major League history in terms of finishing in first place?
I don't know. No, I don't.
All right. I mean, two words you'll know. Bucky Dent.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Yankees.
The 78 Yankees, and then they, and then only thing that made that worse was then they beat the Royals and in the playoffs and won the World Series. So I wouldn't mind seeing that record fall. But the point is, the Guardians have gotten hot, and it's just they've got a lot of teams to catch. There's 5 teams that are Yankees, Red Sox, Guardians. Yeah, five teams. They really need 3 of them. They have to catch 3 of them. And to me, this stretch now, I included the Twins in. I know you talked about this like 10-game stretch. I really looked at it as a 9-game stretch. I looked at it as a 13-game stretch because I looked at the Twins were winnable games. Now they have a really easy stretch here: a homestand, Nationals, and White Sox. But then I include the 4 games against the Rangers because that's part of the homestand, and that's against a team that they've got to catch. But like you said, a team that's faltering. These 10 games coming up, they have to go minimum 8-2. And they have to win at least 3 or 4 against the Rangers. If they go 8-2, right now they're 2 under 500. So if they go 8-2, they'll be 4 over 500. If they take 3 or 4 from the Rangers, that means the Rangers have fallen off by 2 games as well. Which means I think right now the Rangers, what is their exact record as of today? They are just 1 over. So they would be 1 under 500 pending the results of their other games. So I mean, if they can go 8-2 here, they will probably move past the Rangers, and they'll just have to catch 2 more teams between the Red Sox, Guardians, Mariners, and Yankees. And the Guardians are not that far ahead of them. The Yankees, pending. Really, I mean, to me, the thing about makes the Yankees so interesting is that to me it all comes down to Aaron Judge's health, and he is. He is not as valuable as he was last year, but we're seeing his value is being demonstrated this year as more than even last year. Without him, that is a very mortal team. So even now, I can convince myself that there's still a glimmer of hope, but it would have been 7-3 might have been enough before today. Now it's 8-2. They have to get it right. I really think a 6-0 week, at least 5-1. Against the Nationals and White Sox is an absolute necessity because this is the gimme part of their schedule. It doesn't get easier after this week.
No, I think this is the critical moment, and I think I'm not going to say they have to go 3-1 against the Rangers. I think you go 500 against the good teams, and you have to pummel the bad teams. I mean, the lifting has to be done against Washington, the White Sox again, the Angels and A's at the end. Right, those are games. That is a total of what is it? A 4-gamer, the second series with the White Sox back in Chicago.
That's a good question. I think you're right. This week it's 3 games. It's still 3. Oh, that sucks.
It's also 3. So you've got, to me, 15 games with teams that should be rolling over for dead, and you have to put them down. I mean that's like 12-3-ish. And if you go 12-3, now that gets you there, because all you got to do is play 500 ball the rest of the way. If you go, if you go 11-4, that means you got to play 1 over against all the good teams. That's the path. Like sitting here and thinking like, well, they've got to sweep, the Tigers. That's that's not happening, right? The path to how they're going to get there. There's no reason to think a team that hasn't hit all year except for about a 2-week stretch is suddenly going to figure that part out. So to me, this is it. This is the moment. It's doing damage to the bottom feeders, and that's where they sit right now. All right, I want to talk about who should be batting leadoff for this team. We'll do it right after you hear from our friends at David Starnes Allstate Insurance. David Starnes Allstate Insurance, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. With David Starnes Allstate, it's not just about fender benders. Beyond traditional safeguards, enjoy perks like roadside assistance for unexpected breakdowns, transportation expense coverage when your car is in the shop, auto replacement protection to keep you on the road in style, and much more. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Your favorites are back. Kansas City now for a limited time at all your KC Whataburger locations. Get the Pico de Gallo burger, 2 large beef patties, 2 slices of pepper jack cheese, Pico de Gallo, and creamy cilantro lime. How about the sweet and spicy bacon burger, 2 large beef patties, American and Monterey Jack cheese, bacon, grilled onions, and topped with sweet and spicy pepper sauce. Or grab the patty melt. Even the honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich. They're all perfect with the Whataburger banana pudding shake. Remember, Whataburger's open 24 hours a day. Breakfast served 11 p. to 11 a. And don't forget, you can get all your Whataburger favorites and more by downloading the Whataburger app with the QR code. Whataburger, proud sponsor of the Kaufman Corner podcast. All right, We'll talk a little bit about who should be batting leadoff for this team. The good doctor Rany Jazayerli, of course, having some fun with his internet. Rany,
Back.
you're back. He's back. It only took a second to figure things out. So impressive. Your array of skills there, Rany. I'm impressed. Let's talk a little bit about who should be batting leadoff for this team. They made a big move when they took Jonathan India out of the leadoff spot this past week. It was the first time all year he'd batted someplace else, and it worked immediately, right? Immediately, Yastrzemski hit, India hit. It looked like, wow, Q's pressing all the right buttons. Was he going to mix and match now? In this series alone, he had Yastrzemski, he had Maikel Garcia up there. Is this now just about a matchup in every single game and nobody warrants having that spot? And how did we get here? This was the major problem all of last year, and they made a big move to try to solve it, and it hasn't really worked. It's improved from last year. Let's be clear. What was the on base last year from the leadoff spot? Like 260 or something, or 280 or
270, which was by far the worst in baseball. Do you know what it is this year, by the way? What would you guess?
I'm guessing it's like, just off India's numbers, like 325.
Yeah, it's 331. Okay. Coming today, India in the leadoff spot was at 322. What's interesting is Maikel Garcia in 11 starts out of the leadoff spot has hit 415 in that role. Now, probably just a fluke. It's 11 games, but that certainly helps the numbers. And we saw him in the leadoff spot. Was it yesterday? I believe. But having said that, I mean, look, they obviously traded for Jonathan India to solve the leadoff problem, and in terms of OBP, if you just strictly look at that, it's 55 points. Even India himself is 50 points better. It's not a complete disaster. The problem is India in every other way has been a disappointment. His lack of power, his defense, his position, everything. But they had to do something to shake things up, I think. And I really like the idea of putting Yaz in the leadoff spot. I like just the fact that he's left-handed again in a platoon role against right-handed pitching. The fact that Yastrzemski, I love having a left-handed hitter there. He's got a career 363 OBP against right-handers. And even this year, his power had fallen off in San Francisco. His on base was still there. He's actually in his brief time with Kansas City, his slug coming in today was over 600. He was over 5 today. But he drew a walk out of the leadoff spot today. I think he understands his role there. And, frankly, I think he's a better hitter right now than Jonathan India. And so I'd rather have him get more at bats. It's not just about who's in the leadoff role, it's that who's getting more plate appearances in a game. So yeah, I prefer him in that role over India against right-handers. And against lefties, I think Maikel Garcia is perfectly fine if he's comfortable in that role. I don't like him leading off against right-handers, in part because, the power there, you might waste it, but also because, Maikel Garcia, his speed is a big part of his game in terms of stolen bases. But with stolen bases comes risk, comes caught stealings. Today, he stole a base and he also got picked off. I actually prefer that lower in the lineup. Like, the leadoff hitter on the Kansas City Royals bats directly in front of Bobby Witt, who is leading the American League in doubles. I want a guy who has the speed to score from first base on a double, and I think Yastrzemski still has that. His, for his career, he has taken the extra base on a hit 46% of the time. The major league average is 42. So, in terms of base running speed, he's fast enough to score from first on a double. I don't care if he can steal a base or not. He's got 6 steals this year. It's a career high. Like, he's not a base stealer, but he's a good base runner. That's the guy I want my leadoff role. Leave Maikel Garcia batting, lower in the lineup, and then have Jonathan India bat 7th. So I like the move. Again, these are marginal moves. Whatever you're doing is going to help maybe a couple of runs over the course of the rest of the season, but every little bit helps. So credit to McIntyre for coming up with another solution and constantly trying to fix problems on the fly is never easy. But I do like this move.
Yeah, I do too. And I think, it looked like it immediately took pressure off of Jonathan India and, allowed him to relax. It's the home run in Fenway Park. Mm-hmm. You thought, okay, here it is. Like, maybe just, mental day, a half day, not have to feel like you got to set the table. Some guys want to go up there and take extra pitches. Now you can just focus on on hitting the baseball. And, I was optimistic that it would keep working. And look, it's too small a sample size to say it won't work, right? In the long haul. But, what is the long-term answer? I mean,
In the leadoff role?
they just they don't have anyone that even remotely looks like a leadoff hitter ever coming through this organization.
I mean, if you're super long term, it's probably Asbel Gonzalez, but that's 3 years away minimum,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, that's the guy that they're probably looking at. I will say this: Sean Gamble might be that guy, right? I think that they look at him as a potential leadoff type guy. The 70s, Brian Bridges, kept making a point of emphasizing he's a 70 runner. Like he's got, which they love for him in center field, but I think they also love that as in a leadoff type role. So I'd like to think that, you never draft for need, but that like when they took this guy, they did have that in mind, that this team needs to find a true leadoff threat, a guy who can get on base, in the long term. But again, 3 years bare minimum, and you're gonna have to either fake it or hope that Jonathan India comes back next year, vastly improved, or you're just going to keep faking it for another couple of years.
Yeah. They've got to, you got to solve this. Like it's just not that hard to have guys that can get on base, and they got to get beyond it. What do you think? Let's go worst to best. Early returns on Bailey Falter.
Yeah, I mean, so the Bailey Falter, it's only been one start so far. They flip-flopped them in the rotation, which, based on, based on everything we know about them, yes, I'd rather have Ryan Bergert get more starts anyway. But we've only seen him once. It was a disaster start. It's hard to read too much into it. We kind of knew Falter would be a bit of a project when they got him. And, the problem is they can't afford to, send, to have him work on the side or out of the bullpen order while they tweak his stuff. I mean, even Cole Reagan's got 2 or 3 weeks in the minor leagues. They're trying to tweak his stuff and make him a better pitcher while he's in the rotation. So this could be a work in progress. The thing that stood out that I don't think I appreciate till I actually saw him pitch for the Royals, even though it was kind of in the numbers, was his extension. Right. The fact that he lets go of the ball so, I think I want to say it's like 7.4 feet, his extension off the rubber, which makes his fastball look better. But the bigger notion here, the Royals continue their trend of trying to find pitchers who have some sort of unique trait, who do things a little different, right? That's deception, right? That is, you don't get guys out with pure stuff unless you're Paul Skeens or something, right? You get them out with stuff, yes, but you also get them out because you do something that the batters are not used to seeing. You do something, your pitches do something that other pitchers' pitches do not do. And with Falter, the problem is it's not the movement on his pitches. The movement on his pitches is actually a problem. They don't move very much, and that's right. And the hope is they can fix that. What's intriguing is that where his release point is different, and that may be contributing to the success he's had at the major leagues to this point, because his stuff is not that good. But that's something you hope that they can keep that, they can work on that, work off of that, I should say. And hopefully we will start to see in the numbers more movement on his other pitches. His first start didn't see much. It was one start. We'll find out more against a team, tomorrow in the Nationals, who he should be able to be successful against.
He's the Michael Lorenzen. I mean, that's what he is, yeah. Right? Like he is here to facilitate the game. You better have your bats going the day he's out there, and maybe he'll, have a great day and only give up a couple of runs over, 6+, but you're just, 5 innings of 3-run baseball is probably what you need to be planning on. Right. So the bullpen needs to be charged and ready to go, and you need to swing the bat. But that's okay for a fifth starter if 1, 2, 3, 4 do what they're supposed to do. Right. And I actually like that Falter. I don't like that he got knocked around, but when he got knocked around, he still managed to fight through 4 innings.
Right.
And didn't leave. I mean, just for so many years, we'd watch all these guys just come out after 1 2/3, and and then, okay, here we go with 7+ innings of bullpen. And so the fact that he could at least, nurse it along and get 4 innings, I'll give him credit. Let's hope he has a better start the next time around. But that's what he is. Don't expect more. Don't get disappointed. If you lose a game, 4-1 that he started, shame on the bats, right? That's just what it is. And again, if the other guys pitch like 1, 2, 3, 4s, then you're going to be fine. And Ryan Bergert is pitching like one of those guys. I heard some people, looking at him and saying, well, he's a 5 starter. He's a 4 or 5 starter. When the stuff metrics all said he's got pretty good stuff. And I didn't understand why they were settling for him being so low on the totem pole. And he looks really good. Like, where's your excitement level on Ryan Bergert? I don't want to say Cole Reagan's, but, there's less of an injury history here. But this looks like kind of a steal right now.
Yeah, I don't. Got 2 starts is too soon to be saying anything's a steal. And look, I'm sure I have to think the Padres are absolutely thrilled with what they got in Freddie for me. Freddie had 2 more hits today for the Padres. I think he's 9 for 21 since joining San Diego. And
we know how that will finish in September. In September, he will be September and October. If they're going to play him every day, he will be on empty.
He might be, although I don't think they're playing him every day. We will see. But the point is, what he's replacing, I'm just saying, like, they're happy over there with him right now, and they should be. And we're, like I said, this is ideally, this is a quintessential win-win trade. Like, this isn't a trade about one team getting more talent. This is a trade for 2 teams rearranging their talent to suit the needs of their roster. So I'm not going to say it's a steal. I hope it's an absolute win-win that both teams are thrilled with this trade a year or 2 years from now. But what I've seen from Ryan Bergert, call me Larry David, but pretty good. Like 2 starts today, especially. I mean, obviously he went from 2 strikeouts in his first outing to 8 today. So the thing with Bergert that we said, his fastball, there's nothing exceptional about his fastball velocity. Pretty average, and that's why I certainly would not compare it to Cole Reagan's in any way, shape, or form, because Reagan's, we knew going in, even when he wasn't a particularly effective pitcher for the Rangers, that he had elite velocity for a left-handed starter. So Bergert's the velocity was not the calling card. The calling card was the movement. The rise in his fastball was unusual, and was the kind of rise that gets you to miss bats even without elite velocity. The concern was all of his other pitches had more rise or less sink than typical. And you want a fastball that rises. You do not want, a slider that doesn't sink as much. You don't want a curveball that doesn't sink as much. You certainly don't want a changeup that rises. That rises more than the average changeup. That's not a changeup. That's just a batting practice fastball. And so that was kind of the concern going in. So what I find interesting, and this is a very small sample size, his changeup has looked a lot better with the Royals than it did with the Padres. The spin on his changeup, and you want low spin. Low spin means more drop. So the spin on his changeup has been significantly lower in each of his 2 starts with the Royals than it was with the Padres. I will say, his last start with the Padres, it was also lower than normal, but he throws, he averages something like 7 or 8 changeups a game. So this is a very small sample size. And even with the Royals in his 2 starts, I think he threw all of 5 changeups against the Red Sox. He threw 11 today. What I found interesting, if you watch the replays of his strikeouts, 2 of his strikeouts today came on the changeup. His last changeup, his last strikeout, he threw a changeup to a right-handed hitter for a strikeout, a swing and a miss. That really caught my eye. You do not see changeups thrown to same-sided hitters very often in general, right? The changeup is a pitch you throw. If you're right-handed pitcher, you throw it to a left-handed hitter because the movement on the changeup is it moves away from a left-handed hitter. It has what they call arm side run. It moves into a right-handed hitter. So that's not a pitch that is commonly thrown to same-side hitters. Teams are doing it more now than they used to, in part because it is kind of a surprise pitch. but he got a swing and a miss on it, and it has a lot, is less spin and more drop. His changeup is averaging, I think, 3 inches more drop since joining the Royals than it had earlier in the year. Again, only 2 starts, only about 20 pitches. But he needs a secondary pitch to pair with that fastball. And so I'm intrigued to see if he's found one. The slider is also very good. I think he got 4 or 5 of his strikeouts today on his slider, and then the rest on his rising fastball. So we'll see if that slider is also becoming a weapon. I'm impressed with his poise on the mound. I mean, he gave up the 2-run home run today, and then he battled back and struck out the side in the next inning. And he looks the part of a bulldog on the mound, right? But ultimately, it's going to come down to the stuff. I think he could be a number 3 starter, right? That's not sexy, but that's a lot of value. And we haven't seen anything. Stephen Kolek is in Omaha, and that's fine. That's where he's supposed to be. We will find out what he's capable of doing for the Royals. In his first start, he's made 2 starts now for Omaha, and he's got 1 walk and 10 strikeouts in the rotation, and they're continuing to use him as a starter, which is again intriguing just because a starter is going to have more value. But to me, Kolek is anything we get from him is gravy. I mean, Bergert to me is worthwhile just for Freddie Fermin, even straight up. So I'm pretty happy. The early returns on that trade look good.
Yeah, I agree. And, I think it makes you feel good that they're always going to be able to go out and find pitching. And that's one of the things that the Rays could do. The Rays didn't just develop their own guys. They would take other guys and make them better. Jake Odorizzi's, like everybody. They'd get a hold of them and they'd make them better. And that's, Brian Sweeney looks to be one of the real keys, and they better make sure Brian Sweeney's happy. Right? Like that needs to be one of the things that continues
absolutely
for this team in the offseason. All right, we'll talk about Noah Cameron here after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. David Starnes Allstate Insurance. Elevate your coverage, elevate your confidence, and drive worry-free. Covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff, as well as your motorcycle, boat, ATV, and you name it. Get with Dave, and he'll get you covered. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. I can't stress how impressive I think Noah Cameron is. Like, for a guy and that just wasn't on anybody's radar screen as really being much of anything prospect-wise, to just keep going out there and doing it again and again. Mm-hmm. And it has to be thoroughly frustrating for hitters because he's at a point now where they're clearly taking him serious. And they're, this isn't just like, oh, well, this is some AAA guy, whatever, we'll be fine, which you see sometimes. I call it the Bobby Keppel effect. We saw him look pretty good, right? We've seen a number of guys that can come out, oh, wow, maybe we got something here. No, you don't. Just like the hitters aren't really taking him serious. They're taking him serious, and he's still pitching the way he's pitching. I mean, is the other shoe going to drop at some point? And is the pumpkin is the carriage going to turn into a pumpkin? I mean, how long before we just go, no, he even though he doesn't overwhelm you with stuff, he just is always going to get funky contact.
I mean, yeah. Look, is he gonna be a Cy Young contender? Because he's pitching at the level of a Cy Young contender, right? 2.52 ERA. Like the results are absurd. No, he's not that good. But is he a legitimate average to above average starter? Signs point to yes. I mean, I brought this up on the show before, but it continues. Like he now has 16 starts and a 2.52 ERA. And the last American League rookie to have more starts and a lower ERA than Noah Cameron was Mark Fidrich 49 years ago. That's an absurd statistic. And his FIP is 367, and I mean, frankly, that's
I would take that right now.
Right, that's what I'm saying. If that's who he is, that's an above average starting pitcher, and the way he does it, it does seem sustainable. Like there's a long history of we call them the crafty lefties, and we've talked about it. I know Cameron, he's crafty relative to 2025 maybe, but his stuff is much better than the lefties of the crafty lefties of the 80s and 90s and 2000s. But there are many, many pitchers you can point to. He throws at least as hard as I brought Andy Pettit up, but here's another example. Tom Glavine. Velocity wise, Tom Glavine did not throw harder than 92 on average. All right. Now, Tom Glavine may have benefited from the most, to hear his critics, you would think that Tom Glavine benefited from the most generous umpire strike zone in the history of baseball. Perhaps that's true, but it's because he had the command to hit the corners and then expand the zone, over the course of a start. But the point is, what Noah Cameron does is sustainable as long as he continues to do what he does, if that makes sense. Yes, he doesn't throw 95, but he throws 92. He has multiple breaking balls that he throws with good break and good command of all of his pitches. I see no reason to think that he cannot be, have frankly a long career. That the type of pitcher he is, tends to age fairly well. He might be a major league starter for 10 years, and maybe he'll never get a Cy Young vote, but you'll look at his career at the end and be like, this guy made 300 starts in the major leagues, right? The type of pitcher is, you hope that he'll be able to stay healthy. Obviously, he's already had, elbow surgery, right? But he doesn't rely on velocity as much. The hope is that his arm will hold up. To the best of my knowledge, he doesn't have a reputation for being a great fielder or great holder of runners yet. But like most lefties of this ilk, they tend to be very poised on the mound, and he's made a lot of plays as a pitcher defensively. He's only allowed one stolen base all season. He has all the hallmarks of what we used to call the Tommy John class of lefty, which is a lefty who doesn't get elite strikeouts, but gets a fair number of ground balls. And gets and so fielding your position is very important if you're getting a lot of ground balls, and also holds runners on first base well, which is important because by keeping them on first base, you end up getting more than your share of double play balls as well. So, yeah, I think what he does is sustainable, even if the ERA isn't necessarily a 2.52 ERA.
Right. Seth Lugo has had 5 straight years where his ERA is bettered his FIP. Right. I mean, so it is possible. You look at FIP and go, okay, he's not really this good. But there are guys that consistently top that. And Seth Lugo's done it most of his career. It's the last 5 years he's done it, that his real ERA is better than his FIP. And so, I think there's clearly something there. You touched on Lucas Erceg for a minute. Do they need to adjust how they're attacking with the bullpen? I mean, does Erceg need to come out of that?
It's a tough question to answer, in part because I suspect that there is something health related with Erceg. He's able to pitch for the most part. He was on the injured list very briefly, but I just feel like he's not 100% right. And I presume that he's able to pitch through it, that they're not doing any long term damage. I'm hoping he'll come back next year and he'll be he'll bounce back. I'm actually fairly optimistic about that. But based on that, I don't have quite the faith in him in the role he's in right now. The question would be, would you move Hunter Harvey into that role suddenly? Right? That would be, and move Erceg to the 7th inning, kind of. Do you flip-flop those guys? It's a possibility. I wouldn't hate that. I don't know exactly how much that matters because with modern pitching, like it's, the starting pitcher rarely pitches into the seventh. So you're going to have to use both of them. And whether one pitches in the seventh and the eighth and the other in the eighth or vice versa, probably doesn't matter a whole heck of a lot. But if the Royals decided to move Hunter Harvey into the eighth inning role, I'd be fine with that. I think it would be interesting if they got back into the race or, threatening even in October and Hunter Harvey stays healthy, is he your closer at some point, right? Like that's to me the bigger question, because Carlos Estevez, like I said, I on the one hand, I feel like his ability, like he's as adapted for the closer role as you can be with his ability. But on the other hand, his ability is just not at the level of either Ursig or Harvey necessarily. And so do you want your closer to be a guy who has the third best ability in your bullpen, even if he can handle like the mental grind and not freak out if he allows the first two runners to reach base or whatever? That's a tough question to answer. I think right now though, I think it's a moot point. I think right now you got to decide, can Hunter Harvey move into the eighth inning role, and does that take a little pressure off of Ursig and makes his lack of strikeouts right now less of a concern?
Yeah, I think I also think they're probably worried you've made him the closer, right? Like, so he's kind of now, with making the biggest bank in the bullpen comes a level of stature, but he's also had that. Now you'll be stripping him of it. Right. Early on, when it looked like they were going to mix and match, okay, whoever's up, whoever's turn it is going to go. Well, now you're demoting him if you do it. And what does that do for the dynamics of the clubhouse? What does that do for him, as it, the way he goes about doing things? I don't think you need I don't know what his demeanor is. I don't know how he would handle it.
No, it's a good point. I mean, I think you might do that if you're in October. Like in the playoffs, all rules go out the window. And I think there's a culture in the sport now that teams have to adapt in October in extreme ways. But I don't think you even there's no reason to visit that decision until September 15th at least.
Well, does Hunter Harvey need to be the Ursig?
Right, and that's what I'm saying. And maybe he does. Maybe if he's healthy and the Royals are using him, he has been very impressive. And I mean, I think part of it is he might be, might improve the team a little bit this year. It's also might be a good chance to audition him to see, do you want to re-sign him for next year? All right, because his injury history will keep his price down, may allow you to sign him to a 1-year contract or 1 year with a vesting option or something like that. If the Royals if he can handle that role and the Royals like his medical reports, I would not hate bringing him back, because the thing about Hunter Harvey is he's one of those pitchers where the problem with him is he might get hurt. The problem is not generally that he doesn't pitch well. It's like, he's good when he's available. He's just never available. I'd rather have a guy who's unavailable half the time than a guy who turns into Sam Long or, just craps the bed and you have no way of knowing when that's going to happen. And he ends up hurting you before you can get him out of that role.
You touched on John Rave a little bit earlier, but as soon as Jack Caglione is back and he's getting ready to head out on a rehab assignment, that move is done, right? John Rave solidified that he will not be on this team when Jack Caglione comes back. That's the move that's waiting to happen, correct?
I feel like it. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see positioning wise. I would like to think, because Caglione is obviously still learning the outfield, the last thing you want to do is move him to the other corner. Like, let's stop dipping into the MJ Melendez playbook and move a guy from left to right when he's still learning how to play one. Just put him in right field. I think Yastrzemski and Grichuk can handle the move to left. They're both veterans. They both have experience out there. Let them platoon in left. Put Caglione back in right field. And, whether, John Rave gets demoted or whether, when rosters expand, they keep him around, remains to be seen. I worry that he's not a great guy to have on the bench because he doesn't have one skill that he does well. The fact that we've talked about this, I know David Lesky talked about this, like he doesn't have a platoon split, which good for him, but at the same time makes him less valuable coming off the bench against a right-hander and late in the
Oh,
game.
it's great for him if he's hitting 300 and
right. If
350.
you're an everyday player, you don't want to have a platoon split. If you're a bench guy, it kind of helps to do one thing well, and he doesn't do that one thing well. He had a decent defensive reputation when he came up. I haven't seen that manifested as we've discussed. So but Nick Lofton being the right hander, you keep Nick Lofton around and maybe he spells Caglione or whatever from time to time.
Yeah. He also has more position flexibility as far as being able to play in the infield as well. Look, you mentioned the coaching, the hitting coach. We both, it became clear when they didn't make a move early on that they weren't going to make a move. I think that it needs to be addressed. But also, I don't know how you can get to AAA and spend 3 years in AAA and not become the best fielder and the best bunter and do all the little things, the best base runner. Like, they have got to get either better at the scouting of the abilities of guys, but more so the coaching in the minor leagues. I don't know how guys get to the big leagues and are half-assed at things. Like, I did that. It boggles my mind, right? It boggles my mind. And particularly when you're a 4A player, you need to be exemplary at all that kind of stuff. When do we see Carter Jensen get the call? Is it with the rosters expanding? Is he the move?
I think
two guys.
Let's put it this way. I think the way he has performed here since getting to AAA, I think he's earned a September promotion. All right. Will he get it? I think so. The tricky thing with him is just simply the positional aspect of everything, because he's a catcher or he's a DH, and you already have Salvi, who's moving Freddie Fermin certainly eases that logjam, but like you really want Carter Jensen to develop as a catcher. Salvi obviously wants to play every day. We are at the point now, by the way, I don't know if you noticed this, that I think today was the 37th consecutive game that Salvador Perez has started in some capacity. Now, there are days off on the schedule. I'm not saying he's played 37 days in a row, and he hasn't caught all of them. He didn't catch today. In fact, I think the most he caught 4 days in a row last week, and that was the first time he had caught 4 games in a row or 4 days in a row all season. But 37 games in a row it's not just the catching is hard. He's 35 years old. I think a 35-year-old anybody should have the occasional day off. So, and plus, like, look, Luke Mailey, he got off to, a really good start when 15 plate appearances with the Royals, but Luke Mailey is who he is, which is basically Drew Butera. If you look at Luke Mailey's entire major league career, yes, he can run into one every now and then, and, he's done that for the Royals, and great for him. But, you really don't want him in your starting lineup any more than absolutely necessary. So, and as a third catcher, perfect when you rosters expand. So I'd love to see Carter Jensen in the major leagues, but if he gets called up, I'd like to see him play. And I wonder, are the Royals prepared to start that transition from the Salvador Perez era behind the plate to the Carter Jensen era behind the plate, which will presumably go into next year, because Carter Jensen might be ready to start on the major league roster opening day next year. But if he's on the roster and he's not playing 70% of the time, then what are we doing here? And yeah, he can DH a little bit, but he has to catch too. And, they've done it with Freddie Fermin, a roughly 50-50 split behind the plate. Maybe that's what they do. The difference with Carter Jensen, though, is his bat is good enough that you'll start him at DH on the days he doesn't catch, whereas Freddie Fermin rarely did. And so that's why he was a 300 plate appearance a season guy. Carter Jensen, you're looking at him as being a 500 plate appearance a season guy. So I think he's earned it. I hope they do so, but I'll be very interested to see how they manage the playing time behind the plate for both of those guys.
He's a guy that's usually taken a little time to adjust to the level, and he was 1 for 25 to start at AAA, but now he's really got it going, and he's kept it going. And I think, I'm optimistic that they will have a young player that comes up and hits the ground running at some point. I'd like to not have a 2-year, grind all the way through.
You weren't impressed with Jack Caglione's 147 average to this point?
And listen, and I still believe in Jack Caglione. I think he swings way too much, and I think we've talked about it. I had some people tell me think left-handed Salvador Perez.
Yep,
and that's been quite accurate. I mean, it's been really accurate. I'm optimistic that he's young enough that he can start laying off some pitches.
The irony is Salvador Perez is the rare Royal who came up and did hit right away.
Yeah.
So
and it's actually
we don't give him enough credit for that.
Yeah, and he's actually made his on-base percentage better. Throughout his time, which no Royal ever seems to do. It's not great, but I mean, he's had a couple of years where he's, where he's pushed it up there, not bad. So yeah, I would hope that Carter Jensen will get the call because they feel like he can help them. Because
and like you said, but also like
he's ready and he can help.
But also if he needs that adjustment time, like maybe, especially if you're not really in the hunt in September, maybe good idea to get that adjustment period done now so that he's ready to contribute day one next year. Teams, this is a small thing, but a real thing. Teams know that if a guy starts the season on their opening day roster and wins Rookie of the Year, they get that prospect promotion incentive pick, that PPI pick. So that's why you see a lot of teams, they want to make sure the guy keeps their rookie status. But as soon as it's clear he won't get to 130 plate appearances, so by the end of August even, teams are eager to bring their guys up to make sure they're as ready as possible for the next season, because if they intend to have them on the opening day roster the following year, they want them to get off to a good start because there are additional benefits on top of just them playing well for your team.
Yeah. Let's get him ready. But for this team, he should help them also win games.
I think if he's behind the plate, let's put it this way: having him in the lineup would be an upgrade over Luke Maile, no question.
Yes.
The question is, do the Royals look at him, and if they look at him and be like, well, if we put him behind the plate, then we can DH Salvador Perez and not give Salvador Perez a day off. I feel like the impact of his bat is going to be blunted because they're using Salvi then in a position where his bat is not particularly, is not distinguished. Salvador's got a very good bat for a catcher. For a DH or a first baseman, not particularly.
Right.
And also then he doesn't get the rest that I think he needs. Like if they actually can say, you know what, we need Salvador Perez needs to have one game, not one day, one game off every week. I think it would make the team better, make Salvador's numbers better. And when Carter Jensen, they have the perfect excuse to do so.
Yeah. I hope we see it. Who's the other guy? You get one hitter, one pitcher.
I assume. I mean, it doesn't have to be a pitcher. You could actually do. I'm pretty sure because teams.
I thought you had to have one hitter. I thought you had to. Well, you could do two hitters, right? You just can't do two pitchers.
Exactly. The point is, you can't. You're maxed out at still 14 pitchers, right? There's no max on hitters. You could have 10 pitchers and 18 hitters. No team will ever do that. That's the problem. It frustrates me. So you could do another hitter. I guess it'll be pitcher. I mean, I think the obvious answer would be Stephen Kolek. They want to get a good look at the guy they just traded for, and he might not start. He might be in the bullpen, but that's fine. See what he's capable of doing and see if he is a potential solution for next year. Because I mean, the one good thing we can say here about like the trade, all the trades they made at the deadline. Yes, they gave up some talent for the future, but no one that they're really going to miss. It appears, and so even if they don't win this year, by getting Bergert and Kolek, we're looking at a situation next year, health permitting. And look, one or two of these guys will probably be hurt, but that's why you have more than 5 pitchers. They have Lugo, Reagans, Waka, Bubic, Cameron, Bergert, and Kolek. Maybe that's 7, right? Even without Kolek, I mean that's if Wright and Bergert. In Falter would be 8, right? Like I'd put those guys that'll step down. But like right now, of those, Bergert's like number 6. If everybody's healthy, Bergert's not even in the rotation. Obviously, you have to plan for injury. But the point is, Kolek and Falter are nowhere near the rotation. I have no idea what Alec Marsh's situation is. I don't want to forget about him. I think it'd be highly unlikely he'll be ready to start opening day. If he can be in the bullpen, I'd be thrilled. But I don't want to forget about him because he was a really, really good an underrated part of the team last year. But the point is they have enough pitching and maybe an excess potentially. If everyone's healthy, they may actually be in a very nice situation where they have an excess of starting pitching, not just pitching, but starting pitching that they can play with, whether that's a trade or something else. I don't know. But I like the situation they're in. I'd love to see what Stephen Kola can do and see if he can be, the 7th or 8th guy in that list of 8 pitchers.
Yeah, it would be nice. He's given up a lot of hits, but
right. But Omaha, AAA right now is a hitter's paradise. I don't look too much at that. I think only given up 1 home run in the 12 innings he's been there, and the strikeout to walk ratio is what I'm looking at.
10-1, right?
And 10-1, and obviously, I'm sure they're working on stuff. We don't have advanced pitch data on him at the moment. But that's why I want to see him in the major leagues, because I want to see how he performs, and I also want to see how his stuff compares to what it was in the major leagues the last year and a half.
If you want to see what you can do with your insurance, give David Starnes and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. They are Kansas City's best when it comes to making sure you're insured, your home, your auto, all of it. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance has you covered. Our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete, for more than 30 years, they've been Kansas City's best, making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City. If you own a business, if you manage a business, and you have any kind of parking lot problem, whether it's just the striping, I remember a brightly striped lot will cut down on accidents, will cut down on delays and costly expenses for you and your business. Or maybe you need a whole brand new parking lot. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. And, of course, our friends at Whataburger. They're open 24 hours a day. If you're hungry right now, get in there. They even serve breakfast 11 p to 11 a. Love the breakfast at Whataburger, and I love the patty melt. It's around for a limited time. You can take advantage of it, along with the Pico de Gallo burger, the sweet and spicy bacon burger, the honey barbecue chicken strip sandwich, and, of course, my favorite, the patty melt, plus a banana pudding shake. Wash it all down. Great on those hot summer days at your neighborhood Whataburger. For the good doctor, Rany Jazayerli, I'm Soren Petro, saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.